Sorry, madam. Okay. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, good evening to our respected madam and to all the debaters. So we are from group 6 and we will stand with our options to say the new economic policy has failed to achieve its objective. So my name is Syami Haris bin Shaharuddin. Being the first speaker of the proposition, for today I come up with some full arguments to support the issues that we discussed, which is the failure of new economic policy in achieving its objective in terms of distribution of income, restructuring society, and reduce the level of employment. As we all know, one of the NEP elements included, which was formulated by the National Operational Council, is to reduce the problem of poverty in the group of Malaysian citizens. But the fact is, we are able to see these poverty circumstances are increasing day by day in Malaysia. So despite decades of implementation of the NEP, a quarter of Bumi Putras are still living below the poverty line. In fact, in 2020, statistics show total of 8.4% of the poverty rate in Malaysia, and the number still increase until now, which making 20% of the M40 group members switch to the B40. So we cannot make the issue of COVID-19 as the main cause or crucial cause in this regard. It's because of in 2018, research show 84% of EPF retires are found to belong to the hardcore poor, which in 2019, the rate of poverty in Malaysia is about 5.6%. So we can see these two are the years before the COVID-19 penetrated in our country. So I easily can say the NEP was failed to fulfill its objective. So next, for the employment sector, why did the NEP fail to meet the objectives? It was because of it placed too much emphasis on formal education. There is a ceiling to the number of lawyers, architects, computer programmers, and so on that the job market is absorbed. As a result, many areas of the economy that do not necessitate formal education have been overlooked. So these include the arts, music, theater, sports, entertainment, as well as uniform institutions such as fire department, police, navy, and among others. So in the end, this case, many graduates who came into being as a result of the NEP are either unemployed or are forced to look for the overseas to work. Maybe they might go to the Australia, Singapore, and many more. So this situation shows NEP is not sustainable to avoid reducing employment. So last but not least, for the restructuring, what can I say? NEP is driven by failures. Nowadays, we can see with our eyes who is in the top and who is in the bottom. So the problem shows us NEP did a lot more than help the poor. Restructuring means all the Malaysians need to be in the same condition living, flexibility in having a structured life, and many more. So for instance, people who are living in the inland areas necessary to get to obtain the same right and needs as people residing in urban areas. So that's all the points from me. So moving to the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay, for next point is the prevailing officially poverty measures have used a household rather than a per person capita poverty line income. So for this point, I will not agree on this point because they should measure per person's, per capita's poverty line income. Because each and every person have their own commitments for their self, even though they are in one family, they have their own commitment. So if they are measures household poverty, it will be not okay for them because for now, Malaysia's basic salary is 1,200. So for example, in a family, they have 2 person are working means their salary, their income maybe in 2000 above. So if their income 2000 above and their households commitments are maybe less than their salary, so if they count measures like per capita poverty, means it will be their commitment will be more than their income. So I will not agree on this point if they are still measures the poverty line as a household. So they maybe will measures per person's capita. That's all for me. Thank you.
Now I will explain about restructuring society. Restructuring society is to abolish the identification of ethnicity with economic function, especially to create, expand, and also to consolidate the Malay capitalists and middle classes. As officially interpreted, restructuring doesn't mean to abolish or change socio-economic relations between classes or economic interest groups, but it mainly seeks to increase Bumiputra capital ownership and also ethnic proportions in the more attractive of mainly professional towards occupations. That's all for me.
So let me continue with the last point. So last but not least, based on the reduced level of employment, the number of Bumiputra school levels and graduates are increased. And also Bumiputras are represented in professional and technical service occupation. Mostly in government employment, Bumiputras are almost professionally represented in clerical works. However, this both occupation group do not fully reflect in the breakdown into high, middle, and also the low level of the employment. The cost of structural unemployment can include shifts in the economy, improvement in the technology, and the workers lacking in the job skills that are required for them to find the new employment maybe. So recent statistic in our Malaysia shows that the various factor of contribution in unemployment among youth in Malaysia. According to the Ministry of Finance 2019, unemployment among youth is due to lack of work experience, lack of skills, and insufficient education level. And also the skills are not complete in the labor market. These are the one of the cause youth unemployment in Malaysia. They are remain seriously under the represented in the administration department and also manage the manager position, sales work. So they are also still significant under the represented at the higher level of private sector. As reported in the sixth Malaysian plan, Bumiputras have had a considerable success in the entering the private sector, but they are unfortunately at the lower level. In the public sector, a substantial number of Bumiputras are in the higher level of the job, and reinforce further the Malay dominant sector. Whereas the objective is to reduce the number of Malays in the sector. Somehow, the non-Malays do not seem to be attached to the works in the public sector because the main cost is because the less attractive sales and salaries and also the benefit offers in the private sectors. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I have a question for the proposition team. Okay, basically about NEP, new economic policy, it is actually have implemented from 1971 till 1990. So you guys were talking about the current situation. So basically about B40, M40 and all sort of stuff. Like how it is actually related to NEP, because NEP is until 1971 to 1990. So later on, it was changed into NDP. So how, because NEP ended on 1990. So how you guys could relate with this current generation situation? So yeah, that's my question.
So based on my understanding, so the MEP and the MEP to the B40 is the continuously section. It's actually the continuously section from the NEP progress. So when the NEP progress end and the NEP still do not achieve the objectives, so moving to the what you say DEP, so the problem of the poverty is still keep onwards. They are not declining and so on. This is the continuously problem from the NEP bring to the DEP and make this situation happen until now.
Okay, so you guys talking about poverty. So basically, there are a lot type of poverty. So basically, NEP's objective is to not destroy. Maybe we could say lessen the poverty. Basically, hardcore poverty. So that is NEP's objective. So I guess when NEP is implemented, they actually reduce the level of hardcore poverty. But then, as you guys say, there is still poverty. Yeah, there is still poverty. But we could say when we compare to this current situation, 2021, there is poverty, but there isn't hardcore poverty. It is called urban poverty. So basically, we have high standards of living. We have to pay rents, like high rents and all sort of stuff. So as you guys said, NEP's objective is to destroy hardcore poverty. It's not about all the type of poverty. It's about hardcore poverty. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Can I reply back?
Yeah.
Okay. So refers to your point, if you can see in Sabah here, if we have opportunity to go to Sabah, we can see during the implementation of NEP, if I'm not mistaken, during 1990 to 1991, yeah, there is same house which built in 1991, and the condition of the house, the condition of the family who living in the 1991 in the NEP section is same thing they are living in the 2021. So this show us about the failures of NEP to change the poverty of that particular person who lived in 1991 to in this new era of 2021.
Okay, so points on me. So I'm just want to ask you some back to our history. So
sorry, your sound is lag.
Hello.
It's okay. I would like to continue. I think his line is breaking.
Okay.
So basically, we as the opposition team, we would like to oppose the stand, and obviously we would like to say that the NEP has achieved its objective. So mainly I would like to come to the point, like the first main objective was it achieved national unity, harmony and integrity. So the proposition team, they were basically connecting it to current situation, right? So when we talk about current situation, we can actually see that there is harmony and unity and integrity in our today's nation, comparing it to the other big government. For example, they were talking about current situation. We can compare it to one big nation, United States. We can see what happened in the past few years, although they had like this economical stability, the political stability, although they were like big shots in that area. But when we talk about society and integrity and unity, we can stand out. We Malaysians, we can see like we stand out. In the US, there was this huge propaganda expanded like Black Lives Matters. All of us were with it. Even we Malaysians were with it, with the hashtags all were going on. So why I'm bringing this point in is that the first main objective of the NEP has been achieved right after the 13th May incident, because due to that, we Malaysians, we can go to each other's house regardless of race, regardless of religion. You know, when there is even a small function, like be it a birthday party, a family function, a wedding, or a big functions like Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, we tend to celebrate it together with our family and friends. So it's basically like a big achievement for the first objective of, you know, having a harmonical nation and unity. So when we regard it and connect it to the big nations, like how the opposition team said regarding to the current situation, like the US and France and all sorts of stuff, we know that there are war happening right now. And when we talk about US, the big nations having this stable economical, political stability, we do know that there are people opposing black skin. There are people opposing people from different religion, different nationality. So with that, I could proudly say and proudly oppose the statement saying that we have achieved, the NEP of Malaysia has achieved the first main objective of NEP by achieving the national unity and harmony and integrity.
Okay, so adding a bit Pavitra's point, I would like to say that as you guys were saying, the proposition team, you guys were saying that even the current, for example, Malays, you know, they are actually facing poverty, and you know the B40, M40 categories, you know, it is increasing. But as the data which we got researched, you know, okay. From the year NEP was implemented till the end of NEP. Okay, so we could know that the percentages of, you know, Bumi Putra equity has been increased compared to when it started, and you know, it has been increased from, you know, 4% to 20%. And also overall wealth, you know, GDP has also grew and increased, you know, per capita GNP, where it went to 1,142 in 1970 till 12,102 till 1997. So what we could see is it is actually increasing. You know, even the overall poverty has been reduced from 52% till 5% actually. So it has been reduced. We couldn't say it got worse. So what I would like to say is NEP, it actually has achievements. It actually reached and also succeeded with the objective. You know, it is actually parallelly succeeded with the objective. I would say it doesn't fail. So yeah, that's my point. And anyone would like to add up?
Okay. So now I'm going to add on for Pavitra's points. Like just now, she was talking about the Black Lives Matter. No, which is happened in Malaysia in the riots of May 30, 1969. So that time we were deemed to have been caused largely by socio-economic imbalance within the Malaysian society. And so the NEP was conceived with two aims in mind. First of all, to reduce ethnic inequalities and to eradicate poverty irrespective of race. So between then and today, the NEP and its various forms and conceptions has spanned 11 Malaysia's plans and 48 national budgets. So in other words, it has been a constant feature in our national economic and development planning. So irrespective of who or which political party has been charged and changed, we have to admit that the NEP has had its success. Over the past 5 decades, hardcore poverty has been largely eliminated. So the middle class has grown, the economy has been diversified, and Malaysia has attained the status of an upper middle income nation. So Malaysians are more Malaysians people are being more better educated and living longer. So also ethnic imbalances and have been reduced. So these develop and change are the one of can be proud of, and we say that NEP has been success.
Okay, so and also adding up with that, okay, during NEP, restructuring the society, So for example, okay, during the British colonial time, okay, we could say that, okay, the person who works under the British office, for example, you know, the clerk staff, you know, they are actually Malays who worked under British. So basically, you know, we know that Malays those time they used to study at madrasah. So basically, it's an Islamic education, you know, in education institution. So and then later on, as they need, you know, Western education, and all sort of stuff, a lot of vernacular schools and vernacular institutions have been developed. You know, it is actually we could say that was also under NEP. You know, the objectives of NEP, the strategies of NEPs. So it has been increased. You know, people are like after they have been you know, they have created all these vernacular schools and institutions. People are actually, you know, the education level has gone up high, and then people are being more educated. So that I would say it is also an achievement. There wouldn't be failures in that. You know, it has been achieved through NEP. So yeah,
So
that's the
yeah,
point.
I would like to add on to that point. Also, I would like to connect it to one of the opposition team, the proposition team speaker. They said like they did mention like each family member, they have like their own commitment. So talking to that, the speakers also they connected it to current situation. Okay, as we talk about current situation, NEP was the seedling for every policy. So everything continued right after NEP. Talking about today's whatever the B40 and stuffs, talking about today's policy and especially BRIM. BRIM was introduced to each family. The proposition team member, she actually mentioned like they have their own commitment, their own problems. Yeah, I do agree with that. But after the NEP policy, which was a seedling, BRIM was implemented. And what was BRIM? Each and every category they get their own subsidy. For example, students get their subsidy, and then college students, people, unmarried people, and you know that is one policy that was implemented right after NEP. So we could say that NEP is the main cause of achieving every other things in today's government. And also adding on to Shakila's point, when we talk about, you know, restructuring society and distribution of income, we could clearly say that when it was the NEP policy was introduced, the wealth distribution, especially the wealth of our country, it did grow. Because when we refer to the Gini index, it actually increased, especially when we see the Chinese income has increased in the 1997. And then the Gini index, obviously it has increased from 1990 to 1995, which is from 44.6 to 46.4. Although it is a small increasing level, it did increase. So we can clearly see that the intra-ethnic income has difference, the intra-ethnic income differences had definitely increased. So with that, we could also say that achieving the minimized level of poverty in the country had done a justice, because the quality of life for all Malaysians has been increased by government doing this access to land to all categories of people, and physical capital trainings like employments, securing participation in economic activities, and also acquiring ownership in various economic sector. Also, all the public facilities have been given to all sorts of people from all categories.
Pavitra,
Yes,
I think you should open your opportunity to Raja Sarah. Now it's time is running. Raja Sarah, please say something. Kau tak markah you tak ada.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, now I finally have the chance. I would like to talk about more on restructuring the society. So there is a priority on growth and expansion of Bumiputra owned micro, small and medium enterprises. Thus, the creation of BCIC, the Bumiputra Commercial and Industrial Committee, was created to ensure participation of the Bumiputra people in the modern sectors of economy. And by the end of 1990, corporate equity ownership of business had improved. And moving on to in 2015, only 38% Bumiputra owned SMEs were accounted out of the total Malaysia owned SMEs. Therefore, the 11th Malaysian plan had added emphasis to this by specifying 30% equity ownership with effective control. And not only that, there is also a restructuring on employment during the 7th Malaysian Plan. Education and training programs were emphasized to increase the number and proportion of Bumiputra professionals and managers in the corporate world. During the plan period, there was the number of Bumiputra employed in all occupational categories were increased. And
okay, continue.
And other than that, in the agricultural sector, there were also land development programs to develop the agricultural and rural sectors, such as the new land development schemes, which was for the resettlement of the poor and people who had no land, the landless people. Other than that, in situ development programs, which was to improve productivity in the agricultural areas, basically to develop them. And there were also village industry and rural entrepreneurship programs to help them develop more and to develop basically. And lastly, there was also efforts to improve marketing network through the establishment of farmers markets in urban centers to enable farmers to sell their products directly to their customers. That is about the restructuring of society.
Yeah, and adding up on that, NEP also, they actually they didn't even only focused about agriculture and not only about that. They actually, they actually supported, they actually want more income in various sectors. For example, agriculture, industrial, mining, and all sort of stuff, even rubber and all that, because during that time we know that rubber estates were so big. People were working there. The ethnic were working there was Indian, and also the mining sector. For example, we could see that Malaysia during that time have been the top tin exporting country. We have export a lot of tins. So it was in a high percentage, I guess, like 58%, I guess. So yeah, it should be 58%. So actually, we were the top distributors of tins during that time because of these mining sectors, and a lot of Chinese were working under the mining sectors, and they did gain a lot of money through exporting this mining tins and all sort of stuff. Even rubbers we could see, like Malaysia is known as a top rubber exporting raw materials too. So yeah, we could say that it has been the income of our country during that time has increased. It doesn't mean that even it's a little bit or a lot, but the important thing is it should be increased. It shouldn't go decline. It has to go upwards. Even though it's a very small percentage, it have to go up. It shouldn't decline. So when it declines a lot, it is considered as a failure. So I would say NEP is and did achieve the objective, the target. So yeah, that's about my stand.
Yeah.
So
the representative of Group 7 and the last point from us, the NEP, we should admit the NEP was succeed in creating an economic recovery. After that, the devastation of like how our Shakila was explaining about the economic recovery. So there was a major transformation was occurring politically, economically, culturally, and spiritually, even spiritually also. So from a small scale and light industries were largely in the hands of private entrepreneurs and cooperatives. So by that, we have to admit that NEP was achieved a huge success rather than being telling that it was failed. So what about the proposition team? So any points?
Yeah.
If there are no points though, since we're running out of time, I'd like to add just 2 small points regarding the per adult national income increase. Okay, if I may, in the 1970s, the growth rate of the per adult real national income had only been 2.93%, which is low. And as we come into the 2014, the average per adult national income has increased by 55%, which is because of a per adult national income increase of 3.7%. So we can say that the income inequality has decreased throughout the years and has improved a bit. And lastly, one more regarding poverty. From nearly 50% of poverty in 1970, we were able to lessen it to 1% in 2014. So absolute poverty was able to be tarnished and eradicated. And the income gap also shrank. The household income inequality narrowed down in 2014. Through education and training, as well as entrepreneurship programs, poverty was prevented. Thus, the low income and poor households and other people were able to have some job opportunities. At the end of the NEP period, poverty declined to 16.5% in 1990 as compared to as it was before in 1970s. Yes, that is what I wanted to add on.
Right, 1 minute last from proposition. Syami, cepat. Last 1 minute last.
Conclusion, madam.
So in this debate, we could see that, as NEP, we couldn't say it failed actually, like in various like NEP, there were a lot of plans. There were five plans actually. So basically in all of that, we could see some changes, we are seeing changes. So changes is basically a success, an achievement. So even though we shouldn't compare that it's a very small success or big, it is increasing, education wise, economic wise, political wise, and many more. Okay, so we could see that there are achievements through NEP, and even though after 1990 NEP was it was changed into NDP, yeah, it was changed because it actually succeeded, even though there are a lot of criticism on NEP. But yeah, at some point, at some cases, we got through it actually, it actually succeeded compared to the failure. There were a lot of achievements compared to the failures. So yeah, that's how I would like to maybe end this debate session. So that's all, madam. Proposition.
So last point, the changes from the NEP to the NDP, you mentioned that the success is more than the failures, but to be discussed from the proposition, what you can see, NEP still has its failures, maybe not to fulfill its objective, but the certain failures we can't see because we are not living in that time. So so we stand also with our points. NEP is not to fulfill the objective. So that's all from me, madam. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Syami. Syami, stop the video recording, please. Stop.